Chains, Part 11. Written by dhonash. Narrated by Vern Henderson. I waited in frozen silence for a few moments while the man agonized over his wounds. How much damage could that twisted old lady have done to a grown man? It wasn't until some far-off commotion that the man finally picked himself up and moved out of the room above me. It was becoming difficult to focus again. Even the stress of having to hold still was enough to aggravate my concussion. I heard several more footsteps within the house above me, almost in unison, then more silence. I wasn't sure if I could handle the light again so quickly in my current condition, but I needed to take action while the mass of them were distracted. I never wanted to see this dungeon again. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping to limit any ill effects the light may have, and flipped the switch. It was too much. I kneeled to the ground immediately to avoid falling. The pounding in my head came quickly to a peak. How was I supposed to do anything in this state? With a bit of focus, the room eventually stopped spinning. The one thing I wanted now was a weapon. They had taken my belt, which had my taser and my gun. The other prisoner also complicated things. Considering what they had done to me, what they had done to themselves even, there was no way I was leaving without her. I scanned the room for viable weaponry. I briefly pictured myself throwing the heavy jars of preserves, stabbing someone with a flimsy cabbage corer, clobbering people with a rusty keg tap. It was so stupid. That's when I found it. The A10 Thunderbolt of food preparation. Big black letters burned onto the body of the device said, "The Sauerkraut Stomper XL." Underneath, in a fancier curved font, was the phrase, "Es ist ganz gut." The whole thing was about 3 feet long. It was made of one piece of solid hardwood, circular and tapered at one end for use with 2 hands, wide at the other with a square head that was 3 inches in width. One thing was for sure, it hated cabbage. It was made by someone that hated cabbage. Hell, even the tree it was made of hated cabbage. In the moment, it was a work of art. I gave it a few tentative swings in the tiny cellar. It was light for its size. I shut off the light and quietly opened the door to the main house. I paced up the creaky stairs and entered the filthy kitchen. No one was there. Some last-minute butchering was left unfinished on a table across from the sink to my left. The head, spine, and legs of a small deer were laying on the faux wood formica. Most of the guts were in a blue metal drum just off to the side. It occurred to me that the cooking of this creature was probably what I had awoken to minutes before. 5 bright yellow plastic chairs, the kind you'd find in an elementary school, were crowded around the blood-drenched table, with one of them containing some fresh cuts of venison. Suddenly, a young man walked into the room, hardly noticing me, asking a bunch of questions. "Where is everyone? Have they found Chris yet? Where's Ma?" I studied him for a few seconds while he busied himself with the refrigerator. He couldn't have been more than 20 years old and clearly hadn't bathed in about 10. He had a series of leaking gouges running along the top of his completely bald head that seemed organized in pattern, and ran in a row down his back. I took a deep breath, moved over and closed the kitchen door. He started to ask what the problem was, but fell silent as he looked up. "One peep and you're done, kid," I said in the most menacing voice I could pull in the moment. You're the sheriff," he stammered as he backed away into some dishes which went clattering onto the brownish linoleum floor below. He leaned in slightly as if to examine me and added, "Dude, your head is so fucked." "I know that. What is this place?" I said, trying to hide the fact that my vision was already blurring slightly. "It's a club, basically. Well, we share common interests. That's not against the law," he blurted out. I saw the urge to yell for help building to a boiling point in the young man. A quick knee to the stomach doubled him over, and I gave him a stern pommel to the head. He was out. "Neither is this," I added grimly to no one in particular as I used the cabbage masher to scoot him under the kitchen table. The clock was officially ticking. I hurried to the kitchen door and listened. Silence again. I opened it and was very suddenly face to face with a tall man closer to my age. He had a strong jaw under a long dark beard and wore overalls with no shirt. His face was red and swollen, very likely from the beatdown given by the old woman. "Howdy, Sheriff," he said with a cocky sideways grin. I immediately went for the same quick knee. He took it better than the young man did moments earlier and immediately got a hand on my club. I stepped backward quickly, which broke his grip, and swung at him in an overhead arc. The blow would have knocked him out clean had I not been standing in a doorway. Instead, I cracked the door frame above me, and he took the opportunity to grab the club by the handle with both hands. We struggled briefly before I used his grip on the weapon to throw him headfirst into the fridge behind me. While he was stunned, I swept his legs and redeemed myself with the overhead swing I tried to land before. The thick sauerkraut stomper landed across his face, and that was it for him. My blood warmed for the first time in days. "Guns good, you son of a bitch," I added angrily, knowing that it probably didn't make any sense. I immediately felt faint. I knew that if I was going to stay, I would need my gun. I decided to head upstairs to look for it. At least I could try to find a window to get a sense of where I was. The greasy stairs had a window on the landing. From there I could see set up for a large bonfire in the yard, around which was some makeshift scaffolding that formed a cage at the center. The group was assembling into a circle around the fire. The whole scene unsettled me. It seemed dangerously fanatical, occult even. To make matters worse, old Cage-Legged himself was lumbering up the hill from some type of barn with someone on his shoulder, probably the other prisoner. The symptoms of my concussion started to get the better of me. My stomach turned over and out onto the landing. I slumped down onto the steps, room spinning. Outside, I could hear chanting as a hard sleep started to overcome me. The more I fought it, the heavier I felt. I crawled to the room nearest the stairs, also empty, and laid my head down on the old, musty carpet.